During the 18th century, there was no shortage of churches in Brooklyn. Many of these churches were led by well-known abolitionists who consistently fought against the institution of slavery in the United States. Several of these were African American churches. Of these churches, a few were organized and founded by free blacks and ex-slaves. Some of these churches included the African Wesleyan Methodist Church, later to become Bridge Street AWME, Bethel AME Church, Concord Baptist Church, Varick AME Zion Church, Siloam Presbyterian Church, Berean Baptist Church. While slavery continued throughout parts of the country, black churches in the North and later in the 19th century South stood on the front line against the inhumane institution of slavery. These churches became stops and major hubs on the Underground Railroad, hiding escaped slaves in basements, providing them with food, money, and shelter. In the true spirit of their faith, many congregation members sheltered escaped slaves in their own homes, even as the cloud of the Fugitive Slave Act loomed over their heads. Because of this law, the second pastor of Concord Baptist Church, Reverend Leonard Black, himself an escaped slave, was forced to leave Brooklyn after the Fugitive Slave Act threatened his freedom. The African American churches of Brooklyn gave a platform to some of the most important African American leaders of the time. In 1863, Frederick Douglass spoke at the Bridge Street AWME Church to encourage the recruitment of blacks for the Union Army to fight during the Civil War. In 1865, Harriet Tubman was a featured speaker at the church, discussing her experiences on the Underground Railroad and in the Union Army as a scout and nurse. The importance of education was not lost on the black church. In 1815, members of the High Street Church, which would later become the Bridge Street AME Church, created the first school in Brooklyn to educate African American children. It was simply called the African Free School. In 1841, the city of Brooklyn annexed the school and named it Colored School No. 1. This school went on to be renamed Public School 67, and in 1977, it was again renamed the Charles Alexander Dorsey School, after the African American principal who headed Colored School No. 1 from 1863 to 1897. The black churches of Brooklyn have a strong history of social activism, continued through the works of churches like our own St. Paul Community Baptist Church. This legacy will surely survive.